Hi, I'm Julie Belfield. I'm a member of Epiphany Lutheran Church in Swanee, Georgia. And if you've seen the appetizer video that I've done to celebrate the 2021 Gala of Milagro Women's Center, then maybe you'll be interested in making this bread. This is a popular Guatemalan bread that's a little bit of a sweet bread. It's called pan dulce. You'll find this across South America and Mexico. But let's make our own version, and I invite you to join in because it's really fun to do. I'm not a bread baker, but this was a fun project. So let's get started. The first bowl that I have are my dry ingredients, and this will be 4 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. That's going to give us some of our sweetness. This also has yeast in it. It's a yeast bread, so we have a tablespoon of yeast, 2 teaspoons of baking powder that will also help it rise, a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon, and that's our dry ingredients. So we're stirring those. In this bowl, I have about a 1/2 cup of vegetable shortening, and to that I've added 2 tablespoons of molasses. That's also going to give us our sweetness. And then I added in about a 1/2 cup of warm water, about 100 and 122 degrees. We want it to feed that yeast. So I've stirred that around. It's going to look a little weird in the pan here, but you stir it around a bit, and then we're going to take about half of that amount of the dry ingredients. I'm going to add that in. And I have this wooden spoon that I'm going to be stirring. Just going to make it a little easier to combine all these ingredients in the bowl. So you stir this around, get that pretty incorporated. We're eventually going to go to our hands, so just a warning on that. So that's about half the amount. Let's get the rest of that in there, and you're going to see that this is going to change texture. It's got kind of a molasses type color to it, and it smells really good. So I'm stirring that with the wooden spoon. I also have a spatula if you want to use that. And these are going to be made into little rolls. These are really popular with breakfast, and with that good Guatemalan coffee, you can imagine a nice breakfast. So it's beginning to get a little bit hard for me to stir with the spoon. So in just a minute, I'm going to go with my hands. Now you might want to grease your hands. You can do that. You can dip them in a little oil, or you can spray them with Pam or another vegetable spray. But I'm going straight in now, and I'm going to be working this dough to incorporate the rest of the ingredients, getting all of that dry mixture. And you see I wore my apron because this is not going to be a clean project. And now I'm going to turn that out, now that it's pretty much incorporated, out onto the table. And I'm going to start kneading this. Now I'm going to tell you, it's going to take 15 or 20 minutes to knead this bread to get it into the texture that we want. You can put a little flour down or a little oil down on your surface, but here's how we're going to knead. We bring the dough toward us, push it with the heel of the hand, and give it a 1/4 turn. And this is going to get you your exercise for today. So I will see you in about 15 or 20 minutes and show you the results of this dough. Okay, I've kneaded this dough for about, I think it's been about 18 minutes. It's looking good now. It should be kind of stretchy. It should feel really good in your hands. And now I'm forming it into a ball, which when you kneaded it, it sort of automatically did that. And now what I'm going to do is put that in a greased bowl, lightly greased bowl, and then give it 1 turn. That way both sides get some oil on it. And then what I'm going to do is cover it with, you can cover it with saran wrap, you can cover it with a kitchen towel like this, and then we're going to let this rest for an hour. Now after it rests for an hour, we're going to be dividing this dough into 20 equal portions, about 1.5 ounces each if you want to weigh that. Those will be little individual breads. We'll give it another rise, and then after they're formed into the small rolls of bread, get 1 more rise, and then it'll be baked. But we'll show you how to do that in an hour. Okay, it's been an hour, and this dough's been sitting and hopefully doubling. Let's take a look at it. And yeah, this pan dulce dough looks pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do, and I hope you got a good workout on kneading that, is take this dough out. I'm going to put a little bit of flour, and we're going to start dividing this into 1.5 ounce portions and making little mini breads. Now the pan dulce, I have to tell you, is not as sweet as, say, it's really not that sweet. It's not sweet like a cinnamon roll or sweet roll would be. I'm cutting this dough in half just to help me out a little bit in the portion control, the portion weigh. I've got 4 portions here, and now I'm going to start dividing out into small pieces. Now you can make this into all kinds of shapes. Each shape is called something different, and I won't attempt to try that because it's in Spanish and I don't know Spanish, but each shape is called something different. There are some elaborate shapes, shells, and all kinds of things. I'm going for the basic round shape with maybe a little decoration on top. So let's see what size this looks like. Yeah, it's a little over 1.5. If you have one of these, it's great. Otherwise, just eyeball it and you'll be fine. So I'm going to roll some of these out. I won't do all of these, but this should get you about 20 portions. This freezes really well, and it'll last for 2 or 3 days in a Ziploc bag. Great reheated, some butter, jam, cup of coffee, or just by itself. It kind of reminds me a little bit, I know it doesn't have ginger, but a little bit of the sweetness of maybe gingerbread. Not as sweet as that, but it has a similar quality to that. I think it's the molasses that makes it like that. So I'm just going to do maybe 4 or 5 portions right now, just to show you what can be done. Let's see, that's, yeah, a little bit more on this one. Okay. And you can do the basic one like this, just a round roll. Just make sure it's kind of a tight roll, and then dip it in the flour. Dip it in flour and place it on baking sheet. These are going to bake at 350 degrees. You'll want to check them because ovens do vary, but I would check it in 10 minutes. It could go as much as 15. Now another shape we can do is to form this almost like a bowling pin is what it was described to me. I got this recipe off the internet. There are several. Sometimes they'll vary slightly, but for the most part, they're all about the same. So you can make it into a kind of a bowling pin shape, roll it out with the side of your hand, and then kind of sit it up and take the top part, which is a little ball, and push it down. So you almost have a little mound with a little ball on top. And let's dip that one into flour too. I don't go for fancy because baking's kind of not my thing, and I'll admit it, and you know, why not do what you can do? So I'm going to do one more that's just a roll. Dip that in flour. You want to have them about this distance apart on your cookie sheet. We're going to let these rise again, so they'll get one more rise, about a 30-minute one. And I'm going to try to form the bowling pin shape again, using the side of my hand. Pull that out and then pull it up by the thinner part and push it down into the ball, if that makes sense. Dip it in flour. These don't take any additional sugar on top, which sort of surprised me a little bit, because I think that would, Americans love their sweets. I think we would go for more sugar. But this is perfectly delicious. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to try that little shape again, because I need to challenge myself. But this will be delicious. This is going to be handed out and passed out at the gala, this pan dulce, and it'd be fun if you could make your own. But here we go. Let's try that one. All right, I'm going to finish these and then let these rise for 30 minutes, and then we'll bake off, but we'll look at them before we put them in the oven. So see you soon. Here are the pan dulces after about 30 minutes resting, after we formed them into various shapes. And I'm going to tell you, some of these shapes are a little strange to me, but we're going with it. But we did some crescents, we did some traditional Guatemalan shapes, and did some plain rolls. So these are going to go now in a 350-degree oven. They don't need to be brushed or anything. And you'll need to check them in about 10 minutes. They could go as long as 15 minutes. So I'm going to pop these in and we'll see what we have. Here's your basket of traditional pan dulces. And these bake actually between 15 to 20 minutes, a little longer than I originally had led you to believe. 10 minutes is not going to be long enough. So go 15, check 15 and then at 20. But you can see how nice and brown these are. They're a little bit crispy on top, but they're really tender in the middle. As I break that one open, you can see how delicious that is. This is going to be great tomorrow for breakfast. And if you're attending the gala, you're going to get a sample of these. But if you're attending virtually, go ahead and make these and sample these along with the crowd. So I think you're going to enjoy these. This is typical Guatemalan. Have it with a cup of Guatemalan coffee and you're going to be happy. Thanks for watching.